Appointments are designed in keeping with the general atmosphere of the building. The cafeteria, extending behind the building, is surrounded on 3 sides by glass and provides a view of the surrounding countryside. The 2 tower-like structures house elevators, washrooms, and stairwells. Allowance has been made in the design to add 2 more sections to the building. They will be connected to the rear of the elevator towers. The towers will then serve all 4 sections and will be in the center of the structure. The lagoon at the front of the building provides the cooling water for the air conditioning and is also a standby supply for firefighting. Because the parking lots are adjacent to the building, it is not necessary for people to cross the main traffic arteries. The entire complex is circled by an oval ring road featuring one-way traffic. All traffic sorting is done on the Laboratories property. There are many architectural details incorporated in the Holmdel laboratory which are pleasing to the senses. In designing the building, the most modern materials and building practices have been used, and these have been integrated with the function of the building to provide the proper facilities and atmosphere for the engineers and scientists who work in it, so that ultimately their work will lead to the advances in communication needed by a world in rapid transition.
Discovery. It always comes back to discovery. In 1933, Carl Jansky, a Bell Laboratories scientist, discovered the center of our galaxy. Jansky was working to conquer the problem of shortwave radio noise at the labs in Holmdel, New Jersey. Using a custom-designed antenna, he measured the levels of static in the atmosphere. After months of investigation, Jansky determined that the hiss he heard came from the center of our Milky Way. Although no one knew it at the time, it was the beginning of a new field of study, radio astronomy. That's the way it's been at Holmdel, then and now. For more than 50 years, Holmdel has been the setting for new developments, discoveries, and applications of technology in telecommunications. Since 1962, this work has been done in this immense, dynamic building. 20 years. It seems a fitting time to celebrate the life of Holmdel, to look at Holmdel through the years, because Holmdel now is a reflection of Holmdel then. The experience at Holmdel began in 1929. Initially, researchers worked making shortwave radio a practical means for long-distance communications. In fact, the work that Harold Friss and his colleagues did ultimately changed much of the world's thinking about radio. Holmdel through the 30s was an exciting and highly charged atmosphere as researchers and scientists imaginatively looked for problems to solve, questions to answer. Fundamental work essential to improved communications was pursued at Holmdel. This work continued through the 40s and 50s in buildings that, for the most part, had been built in the 30s. Something had to change. It did. Partially in response to the increasing demands of the telephone business, Bell Laboratories decided to construct a major development center in Holmdel. A Bell Labs committee developed criteria that the new building design would have to meet. The unanimous choice was a design by the noted architect Eero Saarinen. Construction began in 1959. Saarinen's design incorporated Bell Laboratories' requirements and went a few steps further. Based on his research, Saarinen decided that the offices and laboratories would use interior building space and be windowless. The size of an individual lab would be flexible, allowing for the most efficient use of space. The common service facilities, such as the library, medical, restaurant, computer, and reproduction services, would be centrally located. And the design, 4 buildings sharing common roof and outside walls, would create a striking center court. Occupancy was scheduled for early 1962. While construction progressed, so did research. Holmdel was once again in the news. The first echo balloon test took place on August 12, 1960. It was a total success. A very sensitive horn antenna at Crawford Hill, where operations had moved during construction, picked up the message, "This is President Eisenhower speaking," bouncing off the Echo satellite. Communication via satellite had begun. The building was nearly complete. In late '61, the first support staff groups moved to the new Holmdel. Included were the mailroom, stockroom, and restaurant staffs. The building began to breathe. The stage was set. The move began. In all endeavors, there comes a moment of truth. All the planning, research, and studies resulted in a stunning new building. A new era had begun at Holmdel. At Crawford Hill, there was another advancement in satellite communications. Telstar, an active communications satellite, was launched and began to receive, amplify, and retransmit messages. These signals, both voice and data, were received at Crawford Hill from the Andover, Maine ground station. It was a major breakthrough in telecommunications. As business at the labs got started, so did extracurricular activities. New clubs sprang up as more people moved in. The first softball league began play in June. Work had begun in earnest on the Unicom system, and by September, a production model of the electronic central office was under construction. A new lab building at Crawford Hill was completed. Everything that year was a first, from pioneer sales to radio club meetings. There were concerts by the Holmdel Instrumental Group, Christmas choruses, doll and toy nights, and plantings sponsored by the Garden Club. Through the early '60s, work progressed in many different areas. A new antenna was developed for space communications. The Data Communications Department developed data phone sets that could transmit printed material from a customer's facsimile machine. The winter of '64 proved to be a memorable one. Holmdel, along with the rest of the area, was snowed in. So much so that many people had to stay overnight. People slept where they could. It was quite a time. Construction began on buildings 3 and 4 in June 1964. Completion